Welcome back to The Deep Dive, the show for the learner who wants all the best nuggets of knowledge, but without the overwhelm. Today we are not just reading a play. We're stepping into what you could only really call a massive, sprawling panorama.
Panorama really is the perfect word for it. It's basically a wide-angle lens on an entire country.
Right. We are looking at William Shakespeare's Henry IV, Part 1, and I think for a lot of people, the moment you hear history play, your brain just kind of shuts off.
Oh, absolutely. You picture men in tights standing in a line shouting about treaties.
Yeah, or you think of a dusty classroom where you were just forced to memorize dates and family trees.
Right. You expect it to be dry. You expect a civics lesson from the 16th century. You expect it to be homework, basically.
Exactly. But this is something else entirely. We've been combing through the RSC Shakespeare edition, specifically the work of editors Jonathan Bate and Eric Rasmussen, along with a whole stack of critical analyses and source notes.
And it's a fantastic edition.
It really is. And our mission today is to figure out why this specific play is so often called the absolute peak of Shakespeare's art. Not just his history art, but his art, period.
It's a huge claim, but when you look at the sources, it really holds up. Because this isn't just a story about a king, it's a story about England. And not just the England of castles and councils, but...
The England of taverns and highways.
Yes, exactly. Thieves and dirt. It's the mud and the gold.
It's the high and the low just totally mixing together.
It's arguably the first time in Western literature we really see a cross-section of an entire society interacting in a way that actually feels organic.
But at the center of this panorama, we have this massive burning question that feels just as relevant to a CEO or a politician today as it did in 1597. The question's pretty simple. What makes a good leader?
Right. That's the core of it all. Is it honor? Is it tactical brilliance and being the smartest person in the room? Or is it the ability to go down to the local bar and just drink a beer with the common people?
That's the puzzle for you to keep in mind as we go.
Mm-hmm.
So let's dive into the source material. Bate and Rasmussen point out something interesting right off the bat about the tone of this play. They use a string of descriptors that comes from the era. Tragical, comical, historical, pastoral.
It's a bit of a mouthful, isn't it?
It sounds like a bad sandwich order. Like, I'll have the tragical, comical with a side of pastoral. But what does that actually mean for you listening? Why does that blend matter?
Well, it matters because Shakespeare is breaking the rules of his own game. Think about the play that came right before this in the historical cycle. Richard II? That was a tragedy. It was very formal.
Everyone spoke in verse.
Right. It was all aristocrats making beautiful, sad speeches in throne rooms. It was elevated. It felt like church.
And Henry IV?
Henry IV kicks the church door down. It mixes verse with prose. It mixes the king with the clown. You have scenes where the fate of the nation is being decided in the Privy Council, and the very next scene is two guys trying to figure out how to rob a traveler on the highway because they're broke.
I love that detail in the notes. The specific scene with the carrier.
Oh, it's wonderful. It's such a throwaway moment plot-wise, but it builds the world so perfectly.
You have the king worrying about civil war and assassination and the legitimacy of his reign. And then you cut to this guy at an inn who is just furious because the ostler died and the price of oats has gone up. And his ream has fleas.
The turkeys in my pannier are quite starved, he says. It's such a grounding moment. It reminds us that while the great men are making history, normal people are just trying to get breakfast and keep their turkeys alive and avoid flea bites.
It gives the play a real pulse. It feels like a real world, not just a stage set. But let's start at the very top of that social ladder. Let's look at the guy whose name is actually on the title page. King Henry IV.
The man in charge.
Right. We open the play and you expect the king to be, kingly, powerful, confident, sitting on a big chair looking tough. But he sounds wrecked.
He is absolutely wrecked. The very first line of the play, the first thing the audience hears is, "So shaken as we are so one with care."
One with care. That is definitely not a power pose. That sounds like someone who hasn't slept in a month.
He is exhausted. He's an insomniac. And to understand why, we have to look at the backstory, which the sources highlight as absolutely crucial. If you don't know how he became king, you just don't understand why he's so tired.
Henry IV wasn't supposed to be king. His name was Henry Bolingbroke.
Right. He was a usurper. He didn't wait his turn.
He took the throne by force from his cousin Richard II. And Richard didn't just retire to a nice cottage in the countryside. He was murdered. So Henry has blood on his hands.
The original sin of the dynasty.
Precisely. In the Elizabethan worldview, and this is something Jonathan Bate emphasizes heavily, the king is God's deputy on earth. You can't just fire him. You can't vote him out.
So by taking the crown, Henry has completely disrupted the cosmic order, and he knows this. He is haunted by it. That's why in this opening speech he's talking about a crusade.
He wants to go to Jerusalem.
He says he wants to march as far as to the sepulcher of Christ. But let's be real here. It's not just piety, it's PR.
It's crisis management.
Exactly. He wants to wash the blood of Richard off his hands by fighting for a holy cause. He wants to change the narrative from usurper to crusader.
Don't look at the dead cousin in the closet. Look at me reclaiming the Holy Land.
It's a classic distraction technique. But here's the real tragedy for him. He can't go.
And why can't he go?
Because the chaos he started is coming back to bite him. He says he wants to stop civil butchery, but intestine shock keeps him at home.
Intestine shock. That's such a visceral image. Like the country has a massive stomachache.
It's civil war. It's internal bleeding. The very people who helped him steal the crown, the Percy family, are now realizing, wait a minute, if we had the power to put him on the throne, we definitely have the power to take him off.
It's the classic problem of any coup. Once you prove the rules don't matter, nobody follows the rules anymore. You set a precedent that might makes right.
Exactly. So he's incredibly stressed about these rebels, but there's something stressing him out even more than the state of the country. It's personal. It's his family, specifically his son.
Prince Hal, the future Henry V, the guy who is supposed to be the great hero of England.
The king looks at his son and sees a total disaster. Hal isn't at court. He isn't on the council. He isn't learning how to govern. He's hanging out in Eastcheap in these seedy taverns with thieves and pickpockets.
And the king does something that every parent knows you absolutely shouldn't do, but he does it anyway. He compares his kid to the neighbor's kid.
The ultimate dad foul. He compares Hal to Harry Percy, who is known as Hotspur.
Hotspur. Even the name sounds fast, like a sports car.
It implies speed and heat and action. Hotspur is leading armies. He's winning huge battles against the Scots. He is the theme of honor's tongue, according to the king. He is the poster boy for medieval success.
And the king has this fantasy. It's actually kind of sad when you read it in the text. He says of food that it could be proved that some night-tripping fairy had exchanged in cradle clothes our children where they lay.
He wishes he'd been changeling. He explicitly wishes Hotspur was his son and Hal was just some random guy. That is a brutal thing to say about your own child. I wish the fairies had swapped you at birth.
It really sets the stakes for Hal. His father effectively wishes he didn't exist, or at least that he was someone completely different. But here's a nugget from the history books that I found fascinating in the source material. This whole rivalry is completely fake.
It is entirely manufactured by Shakespeare.
Because in real life, Hotspur was a contemporary of the king, right? Not the prince.
Yes, historically, Hotspur was about 20 years older than Prince Hal. They weren't rivals at all, they were different generations. Hotspur was a grown man leading armies when Hal was basically a toddler. But Shakespeare, using his dramatic license, makes them the exact same age.
Why change history like that? What's the dramatic purpose?
To create foils, to create a mirror image for the audience. He wants you to see two different versions of young manhood clashing against each other. If Hotspur is 40 and Hal is 20, it's just a standard rebellion. If they are both 20-something, it's a rivalry. It's incredibly personal.
Which leads us perfectly into the three worldviews we see in the play. Because it's not just Hal and Hotspur. There's a third gravitational pull.
The tavern, the chaos, Sir John Falstaff.
So we have the calculator, which is Hal, the chivalric ideal, which is Hotspur, and the Lord of Misrule, which is Falstaff. Let's start with the calculator.
Now, the king thinks Hal is just a lazy bum, a truant. But the audience learns very quickly, in Act 1, Scene 2, that the king is completely wrong. The king is actually being played.
This is the famous I know you all speech.
Yes, this is one of the most debated soliloquies in Shakespeare. Hal is alone on stage. He's just finished joking around with Falstaff, drinking, having a great time. And then the moment he is alone, his entire face changes. He turns to the audience and drops the mask.
He says, I know you all, and will a while uphold the unyoked humor of your idleness.
He's saying, I'm not actually one of you, I'm just pretending. And he uses this incredible metaphor of the sun and the clouds.
He says he's imitating the sun.
Right. He argues that the sun is more beautiful and more appreciated when it finally breaks through the clouds. If the sun shone every single day, we'd get bored of it. We'd take it for granted. So he is deliberately letting his reputation get cloudy, hanging out with lowlifes, being a drunk, so that when he finally decides to be king...
Boom. The clouds part. The transformation looks absolutely miraculous.
My reformation glittering or my fault shall show more goodly and attract more eyes than that which hath no foil to set it off.
That is just calculated. It's almost chilling, honestly.
It's highly Machiavellian.
It's bordering on sociopathic, isn't it?
Yeah.
He's using his friends as props. He's using his own bad behavior as a marketing strategy for his future reign.
That's the dark reading, and the text definitely supports it. The source material refers to him as a Machiavel. He treats his wild youth not as a fun time, but as a long-term political strategy. He's intentionally lowering expectations so he can wildly exceed them later. It's cynical, but it's undeniably brilliant.
So while he's drinking sack and cracking jokes, a part of his brain is always detached, watching, planning. He's never fully in the moment.
Exactly, which makes him the complete and total opposite of Hotspur.
The chivalric ideal.
Hotspur has zero filter. He has no inner planner. He is pure id, pure action. What you see is exactly what you get.
The source describes him as impulsive.
Impulsive is putting it mildly. He hates talking. He hates diplomacy. There's that brilliant scene where they are planning the Grand Rebellion looking at the map, and Hotspur suddenly realizes he forgot the map.
He forgot the map to his own war.
He just wants to fight. He doesn't care about the logistics at all. And he despises the polite society of the court. He thinks words are cheap. There's that famous speech, the Popinjay speech, where he lays out exactly why he hates politicians.
Oh, you have to set the scene for this. This is classic.
So the king is yelling at Hotspur for not handing over some high-value prisoners from a recent battle. And Hotspur explains himself. He says, look, I had just finished a brutal battle. I was covered in gore. I was breathless. I was leaning on my sword, completely exhausted. And out comes this courtier sent by the king.
Just strolling onto the battlefield.
Yeah, right. And this guy is dressed in fresh silks. He's clean-shaven. He's basically pristine.
And he's holding a pouncet little perfume box to his nose because he doesn't like the smell of dead bodies.
Exactly. He's sniffing perfume on a battlefield while men are bleeding to death. And Hotspur just loses his mind. He snaps. This Popinjay, as he calls him, starts demanding the prisoners and using holiday and lady terms. It represents everything Hotspur had.
The guy who does the actual bloody work, and he hates the guy who just sits in an office and talks about the work.
Precisely. And this absolute obsession with doing leads to his obsession with honor. He gives a speech where he says, "By heaven, methinks it were an easy leap to pluck bright honor from the pale-faced moon."
That line perfectly sums him up.
Mm-hmm.
He wants to literally grab honor from the moon. It's poetic, it's beautiful, but it's also kind of insane.
It's completely ungrounded. You can't reach the moon. He's willing to die for a metaphor. He lacks the political savvy to actually win the war, but you really have to admire his spirit. He burns bright.
And then there's the third pole in this universe. The man who thinks honor is a joke. The man who thinks the moon is just the thing in the sky to drink under. Sir John Falstaff.
The Lord of Misrule himself.
Let's define that term for a second. What exactly is a Lord of Misrule?
In medieval England, during festivals like Christmas or May Day, the normal rules of society were temporarily suspended. The town would appoint a Lord of Misrule to preside over the drinking, the feasting, the chaos. It was a sanctioned time to just go crazy, to invert the social order.
And Falstaff is that spirit personified.
He is the green world walking around on two legs. The tavern in Eastcheap is his kingdom. In the tavern, time doesn't exist. There are no clocks, there are no schedules, there are no quarterly reports.
I love that exchange right at the beginning where Hal asks him the time of day and Falstaff basically laughs in his face.
What a devil hast thou to do with the time of the day? Falstaff lives in the eternal now. He lives entirely for the body. Sack, sugar, capons, sex, sleep.
The source really emphasizes his fatness. And it points out that it's not just a cheap fat joke, it's highly symbolic.
It is. His fatness represents the solidity of the human body. It's a constant visual reminder that we are biological creatures. The king talks about honor and history and Jerusalem. These are abstract concepts. Falstaff talks about dinner. He reminds us that before we are citizens or soldiers, we are animals that need to eat.
And Hal is caught right between these two fathers. The biological father, the king who deals in death and duty and guilt, and the surrogate father Falstaff who deals in life and pleasure and absolute freedom.
And here is the key insight that Jonathan Bate brings up. Hal needs Falstaff, not just to have fun, but for his literal education.
The tavern is a schoolroom.
Exactly. By hanging out with Falstaff, Hal learns the language of the people. He learns how to talk to drawers, the bartenders, and the tinkers. He learns the street slang. He learns what makes common people laugh.
Which he is desperately going to need when he becomes king and have to lead these same people into battle.
Right. A good king needs to understand his subjects. If he stayed in the palace, he'd be exactly like Richard II. Out of touch, aloof, speaking only in high verse. Falstaff gives him the common touch.
So let's move to how that education plays out, because the curriculum at Tavern University is pretty wild.
The first major lesson is the robbery at Gad's Hill.
This is the massive comedy centerpiece of the first half of the play.
It's essentially a prank within a prank. Falstaff and his gang plan to rob some wealthy travelers on the highway, but Hal and his buddy Poins secretly plan to rob Falstaff.
They put on disguises, let Falstaff do the hard work, and then jump him.
And Falstaff, the great knight who talks this massive game, runs away immediately. He literally screams and runs.
Absolute cowardice.
Pure cowardice. But the point of the prank isn't to get the money. It's to get Falstaff back to the tavern later and hear the lies he inevitably tells about what happened.
And the lies are glorious. They are architectural marvels of lying.
They are constantly escalating. First, he says he fought 2 men, then 4, then 7, then 11 buckram men.
And then, to excuse why he didn't recognize Hal, he claims it was so dark he couldn't see his own hand.
But he simultaneously claims the men were wearing Kendall green suits, which you obviously couldn't see in the dark. Hal catches them in it. He traps him in the logic. How could you see green suits in pitch blackness?
And this is the moment. Everyone in the tavern stops. Falstaff is totally busted. He's backed into a corner. What does he do?
He pivots, and it is pure genius. He doesn't apologize. He says, "By the Lord, I knew ye as well as he that made you."
He claims he knew it was Hal the whole time.
He says the lion will not touch the true prince. He claims he ran away on instinct to avoid hurting royalty. He magically turns his cowardice into a profound virtue.
It's so ridiculous.
It is, but in a strange way, Falstaff is the great truth-teller. He turns the lie into a massive compliment to Hal's legitimacy as heir. He charms his way right out of the trap. It shows Hal that language can be completely fluid. Truth is whatever you can convince people it is.
That's a dangerous lesson for a future king, but an incredibly useful one.
It teaches him rhetoric. It teaches him how to spin a narrative.
And that leads to arguably the most important scene in the play, maybe in all of Shakespeare's histories, Act 2, Scene 4, the play extempore.
This scene is the absolute pivot point. It starts funny, and it ends in ice-cold reality. It transforms from a light comedy sketch into a psychological thriller.
So to set the context, Hal gets a message that he has to go back to court tomorrow morning to face his angry dad. He's in serious trouble.
So Falstaff says, "Let's practice. I'll play your dad, you play yourself. Let's rehearse the scolding so you're ready."
Improv comedy in 1597.
Falstaff puts on a cushion for a crown and holds a dagger for a scepter. And he starts speaking in this ridiculous, flowery prose. He's parodying the way old people talk, parodying the stiff court style.
But while he's playing the king, he uses the opportunity to praise Falstaff.
Of course he does. He tells Hal there is a virtuous man whom I have often noted in thy company. I know not his name.
A goodly, portly man.
He's actively lobbying for himself. He says him keep with the rest banish. He's using the role play to secure his future job at court.
And then they switch. Hal says, "Do thou stand for me, and I'll play my father."
Hal takes the chair. Hal plays the king. And Falstaff plays the prince. And the tone changes instantly.
Hal, as the king, looks at Falstaff and unleashes this absolute torrent of abuse. It's not friendly banter anymore.
He calls him a devil in the likeness of an old fat man. That reverend vice, that gray iniquity, that father ruffian.
That stuffed cloak bag of guts.
He is listing every single thing that is wrong with Falstaff. He is letting out all the repressed judgment he's been hiding behind his sun and cloud's mask. He is purging himself of the tavern.
And Falstaff senses the danger, doesn't he? He realizes this isn't just a funny joke anymore.
He absolutely does. Falstaff, playing the prince, stops the jokes. He defends himself desperately. He says, "No, my good lord, banish Peto, banish Bardolph, banish Points."
And then comes the line that just breaks your heart.
But for sweet Jack Falstaff, kind Jack Falstaff, true Jack Falstaff, valiant Jack Falstaff, banish not him thy Harry's company, banish not him thy Harry's company.
Yatch plump Jack and banish all the world.
He is staking his ultimate claim. He is saying, I am life, I am joy, I am the vital spark of humanity itself. If you cut me out, you are cutting out your own soul. You are cutting out the entire world.
And Hal, staring him right in the face in front of everyone, says 2 words. I do.
And then I will.
I do. I will.
The I do is part of the game. I do banish you in this role play. But the that is the future king speaking. That is Henry V speaking. He is telling his best friend one day, I am going to destroy you. This friendship has a hard expiration date.
And the amazing thing is the scene just continues. The sheriff knocks on the door, the comedy resumes, but the audience is left with this profound chill. We know exactly what's coming.
It's the realization that Hal's political success requires a deeply personal tragedy. To be the good king, he has to be a bad friend. He has to kill the part of himself that actually loves Falstaff.
That tension hangs over the rest of the play.
Yeah.
But now we have to zoom out. Because while this intense psychodrama is happening in the tavern, the real war is starting. The rebellion.
The rebel alliance is gathering, and it sounds truly formidable on paper. You have the Percy's Hotspur and his dad, you have the Welsh under Owen Glendower, and the Scots under Douglas. It's a massive coalition of the willing.
If they actually coordinate, Henry IV is toast. The king doesn't have the manpower to fight Wales, Scotland, and the North all at the exact same time.
But the scene at Glendower's house reveals exactly why they are doomed. It isn't because they lack soldiers, it's because they lack unity. It's a massive clash of egos.
Specifically, magic versus realism.
Glendower is this mystic. He represents the old, magical, ancient Wales. He genuinely believes he is supernatural. He tells Hotspur, I can call spirits from the vasty deep.
And Hotspur, who we know has zero patience for nonsense, just rolls his eyes. He is the ultimate skeptic.
Hotspur replies, why so can I, or so can any man? But will they come when you do call for them?
It's the perfect heckle. Yeah, I can order a pizza, but will it actually be delivered?
But it creates serious friction. You can't run a military alliance if you're constantly mocking your key allies. And then you get the map scene. This is symbolic gold. They're looking at a map of England, deciding who gets what slice before they have even won a single battle.
Talk about counting your chickens.
And Hotspur is incredibly petty. He points to a river on the map, the River Trent, and it says, look how it winds here. It cuts a huge chunk out of my land. I'm going to have the river dammed up to make it straight.
He literally wants to terraform the country just to get more dirt for himself.
It shows their sheer arrogance. They treat England like a pie to be sliced up, not a nation to be governed. This is not leadership. It's greed. It contrasts so sharply with the king, who at least thinks about the welfare of the state, even if he's a usurper.
And then, of course, the alliance starts to crumble.
The letters start arriving, or rather not arriving. Northumberland Hotspur's father suddenly falls sick.
The classic diplomatic illness. Oh, my cough is terrible. I simply can't bring my army today.
He's hedging his bets. He realizes the king might actually win, so he stays home. He leaves his own son out to dry. Then Glendower sends word he can't mobilize his troops in time.
So Hotspur is totally outnumbered.
He is facing the full might of the king's army alone. But this is where the tragedy part of the play really kicks in. Does Hotspur retreat? Does he try to negotiate?
Never. That would be policy, and he hates policy.
No. He says doomsday is near, all die merrily.
Die merrily. There is something so attractive about that fatalism.
It's the code of chivalry taken to its absolute logical extreme. Death before dishonor. He would much rather die glorious failure than live a compromise. He runs straight towards the fire.
Which brings us to the battlefield. Shrewsbury. And right before the fighting starts, we get two very different definitions of honor presented to the audience.
We get Falstaff's famous catechism. Falstaff is alone on stage, and he asks himself, what is this thing called honor that Hotspur is so obsessed with? Is it actually worth dying for?
He breaks it down like a lawyer. Or like a surgeon.
Can honor set to a leg? No.
Oh.
Or an arm? No. Or take away the grief of a wound? No.
So it has no surgical skill. It can't fix you.
What is honor? A word. What is in that word honor? What is that honor? Air.
It's just breath. It's just people talking about you.
And then the absolute kicker. Who hath it? He that died a Wednesday.
Meaning the only people who actually have honor are corpses.
Falstaff chooses survival. He rejects the abstract ideal completely. He wants to keep his legs and arms attached. Thank you very much. He represents the biological imperative to simply live.
But Hal finds a middle ground, doesn't he? He doesn't go full Hotspur, but he certainly doesn't go full Falstaff.
Hal evolves. In the battle, he doesn't run away and hide like Falstaff, but he doesn't throw his life away blindly like Hotspur either. He performs his duty. He saves his father's life.
He literally steps in when the king is about to be killed by the Scottish Lord Douglas.
He redeems that lost opinion his father had of him. He proves his worth in blood. He pays the debt he never promised. And then we get the showdown, the main event, Hal versus Hotspur.
The two Harrys.
Hal says, two stars keep not their motion in one sphere. It's almost cosmic. England simply isn't big enough for both of them. One has to go.
And they fight. And Hal wins.
Hal kills the King of Honor. But watch what he does next, because this is crucial for understanding Hal's character moving forward. He stands over Hotspur's body. He doesn't gloat. He doesn't take a victory lap.
He praises him.
He calls him Great Heart. He recognizes the true value of his enemy. And he sees that Hotspur's face is exposed, a sign of vulnerability and death. So Hal takes his own favors, his feathers or his scarf, and respectfully covers Hotspur's face.
That is an act of incredible grace.
It shows that Hal has assimilated the best parts of Hotspur, the bravery, the martial skill, but tempered it with the deep humanity that Hotspur lacked.
He has cropped Hotspur's honors to make a garland for his own head. He has absorbed his rival entirely.
Exactly. He has become the complete man. He is now truly ready to be king.
But Shakespeare doesn't let us end on that high soaring note. He refuses to give us a clean, heroic ending. Because while Hal is being noble, Falstaff is being, well, Falstaff. We have to talk about the counterfeits.
This is the cynical undercurrent that runs right beneath the heroism of the battle. The theme of counterfeit is everywhere.
The king has dressed up decoys on the field, right?
Yes. Sir Walter Blunt is dressed exactly as the king. Douglas kills him thinking he's killed Henry IV.
Which perfectly symbolizes that Henry IV is a counterfeit king anyway. He's a fake. He's a usurper wearing the clothes of a legitimate king.
Right. And then you have Falstaff's counterfeit. He meets Douglas, fights for about 2 seconds, realizes he's totally outmatched, and then just falls down and plays dead.
He counterfeits death to avoid actual death.
Hal walks by, sees Falstaff lying there dead, and gives a eulogy. I could have better spared a better man.
Even in death, he roasts him. I could have missed a better guy more than I miss you.
But as soon as Hal leaves, Falstaff pops right up. It's like a cartoon. He looks around, checks the coast is clear, and stands up. And he gives his defense of cowardice. To die is to be a counterfeit, for he is but the counterfeit of a man who hath not the life of a man.
That is seriously twisted logic.
He says a dead hero is a fake man because he can't move or speak or eat. A living coward is a true man because he's alive. The better part of valor is discretion.
And then he does something unforgivable, something that makes the audience audibly gasp.
He sees Hotspur's body, the body Hal just treated with such profound respect, and Falstaff stabs it.
He stabs the corpse in the thigh.
It's a total desecration. He hacks at the dead hero to make sure he's really dead and to make it look like he fought him. And then he picks up the body, throws it over his shoulder like a sack of potatoes, and walks back to camp claiming he killed Hotspur.
He steals the glory. He steals the exact honor Hal just fought so hard to earn.
It's grotesque. It's funny in a slapstick way, but it's incredibly dark. It shows the ugly, selfish side of the tavern worldview. It has no respect for dignity. It just consumes everything.
And when Hal sees this, when Falstaff claims, I killed him, look at this wound in his leg, we fought for an hour. Does Hal call him out? Hal knows he killed Hotspur.
No. Hal looks at him and says, for my part, if a lie may do thee grace, I'll gild it with the happiest terms I have.
He just lets him have the lie.
Because Hal knows the truth. He doesn't need the public accolade anymore. He is totally secure in his own honor. It's a mark of supreme confidence. He can toss the credit to the clown like a bone to a dog. He doesn't need the external validation.
It's the definitive moment the boy becomes the king. He's above the vanity of it all.
Precisely. He has outgrown Falstaff.
Now, before we wrap up, we absolutely have to touch on some of the textual controversies.
Yeah.
Because there are some fascinating secrets buried in the editing of this play that completely change how you might see the characters.
The Oldcastle controversy. This is a massive favorite among scholars.
So here's a nugget for you listeners. Falstaff wasn't originally named Falstaff?
No. In the very first drafts of the play, his name was Sir John Oldcastle.
How do we actually know this?
The evidence is still hiding in the text. In Act 1, Hal calls him my old lad of the castle. That's a pun that only makes sense if his name is literally Oldcastle. And in the text, if you look at the meter of the verse, Oldcastle has 3 syllables, Falstaff has 2. Sometimes lines are missing a beat because the name was hurriedly changed.
So why did Shakespeare change it? Was it just a creative choice?
Politics. Pure, dangerous politics. The real Sir John Oldcastle was a historical figure who died a Protestant martyr. His descendants, the Cobham family, were highly powerful figures in Queen Elizabeth's court. They were the Lord Chamberlains. They literally controlled the theaters.
Oh, wow. So they saw their pious, revered ancestor being depicted as a fat, drunken, whoring highway thief.
And they said, change it.
Get
now,
down.
or we shut you down permanently.
Oh.
So Shakespeare had to do a 16th century find and replace. He picked the name Falstaff based on a cowardly knight named Fastolf from the Henry VI Wars.
But the ghost of Old Castle remains in the text.
It does. And Bate and Rasmussen argue this adds a massive religious layer to the play. Oldcastle was a proto-Protestant. By turning him into a carnival figure, Shakespeare might be setting up a subtle clash between the old Catholic England feasts, holidays, forgiveness, carnival, and the new Protestant England discipline, efficiency, work, sobriety.
So Hal rejecting Falstaff is also symbolically England rejecting its Catholic past.
It's a highly valid reading. The clock is taking over. The holiday is ending. The modern world of efficiency and statecraft is replacing the medieval world of festivity and grace.
And there was other censorship too, right? Later on.
The 1606 Act to restrain the abuses of players. Parliament passed a strict law saying you couldn't use the name of God on stage profanely.
So they scrubbed the text.
The early quarto text is incredibly gritty. They say zounds, which means God's wounds, splud, which is God's blood. The later folio text changes all of that to in faith or heaven.
It's like the TV edit of a Scorsese movie where they change the swear words to forget you.
Exactly. It dramatically softens the tavern. It makes the thieves sound a bit more polite and refined. Bate and Rasmussen restore the original grit in their edition, which is essential. You need that blasphemy to contrast with the king's holy prayers. You need the dirt to truly appreciate the gold.
So we've looked at the history of the comedy, the tragedy, and the text. Let's head to the wrap-up. What is the ultimate takeaway here for the learner?
Henry IV, Part 1, is a doubleheader. It's a play of doubles. Two Harrys, two fathers, two completely different worlds.
And Hal is the synthesis. He is the bridge between them.
Hal becomes the good Machiavel. That sounds like an oxymoron, but the play suggests it's necessary for survival. You can't rule with just honor like Hotspur. You'll get yourself killed because you're too rigid and refuse to adapt. And you can't rule with just pleasure like Falstaff. The kingdom will just fall apart into anarchy and ruin.
You need to be the sun in the clouds.
You need to know exactly how to wear the mask. You need to be able to speak to the highway thief and the bishop with equal fluency. But, and this is the terrible cost, you have to kill the fun. You have to permanently banish the holiday.
And that's the final provocative thought I really want to leave you with today.
Go for it.
We all want to be successful. We all want to grow up and be responsible. We want to be effective leaders in our own lives or our jobs. But the play asks a really haunting question. Does becoming a responsible adult strictly require us to kill the Falstaff within us?
If we banish Falstaff, do we banish all the world?
Can we be efficient, effective leaders without losing our soul? Without losing the ability to just let go and play? Or does gaining power always require a fundamental loss of humanity?
Shakespeare intentionally doesn't give us the answer. He just shows us the brutal cost. Hal becomes a historically great king, but he walks away alone. He leaves his truest friend behind in the dirt.
That is the enduring power of this play. It's not just a history of kings. It's the universal history of growing up.
Absolutely. It's the profound tragedy of maturity.
Listen, if you haven't read Henry IV Part 1 or seen it performed, you really have to do it. Look for that play extempore scene in Act 2. It's sharper and better than any modern sketch comedy you'll see today. It will make you laugh out loud, and then it will completely break your heart.
It really is a towering masterpiece.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Shakespeare's England. Keep exploring, keep questioning, and we'll see you next time.